Hello, I'm Drew from the 54th measurement of foot. I'm going to be going over a quick presentation on cleaning up your musket after coming back from a reenactment or a firing. This musket has been used a few times. It's got a little rust on it, kind of left out. It's got a little bit of fouling in the pan. We're going to take apart the piece. I'm going to go over some of the items that I use for cleaning. And we're just going to get this back in a position where it's going to be clean, it's going to be protected from rust, and we can put it away into storage. Just showing a few close-ups of what the pan looks like. There's a little fouling here. There's some rust on the barrel from being left out. We're going to try to take care of that. We should be able to do it pretty quickly. Going down the barrel, we just want to clean up some of this rust using some steel wool. Take care of the Ramrod. Ramrod's pretty rusty all the way down, so we'll take care of that as well. We'll get everything covered with some nice rust protectant. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to boil some water up. We're going to use this to clean out the barrel. So the next step that we're going to do when we have the water boiled up, it doesn't have to be boiled, but hot water is good just so it evaporates off the inside of the barrel once you drain it out. We're going to pour that water down after we've taken the lock off and we've clogged up the touch hole. We're going to pour the water down with some dish soap and let it sit for a little bit, and then we're going to clean the lock. So the next step that we're going to do is actually take the lock out, get the barrel ready to be scrubbed out. We want to clean up the lock a little bit, so we're going to take out these two screws, and these are going to release the lock on the other side. So we're going to clean up the touch hole a little bit. There's some fouling here. I want to make a nice clean space here. You would either use toothpicks to clog up the touch hole, or in my case I use something that I've come up with. I'll go into detail with that afterwards. So after we have the lock taken off the musket, I'm just going to clean up the touch hole a little bit just so I can ensure that the touch hole is covered when I pour water down the barrel and it doesn't spill out. Doesn't have to be perfect, I'm just trying to get it clean. So as I said, once this is cleaned off, we can cover that touch hole up. Many people do it many different ways. Some people use toothpicks, as I said. What I've done is I use a rare earth magnet, and I take the tip of a latex glove, I cut the tip off, and I put the rare earth magnet in the latex glove, so we have kind of a watertight seal here, and this is just going to fit over the touch hole, and it's pretty secure. It doesn't really go anywhere. So the next step is going to be pouring some water with a little bit of dish soap. If you don't have any dish soap, not a big deal. Hot water is okay too, just something to stop that rusting, remove the carbon. So I'm going to grab some dish soap, just some Dawn, I had next to the sink. Pour a little bit down the barrel. I'm going to let this sit while I clean up the lock a little bit. The barrel takes about a cup or so of water, hot water. So I'm just going to pour that down. The touch hole is plugged, so we're good. And we'll set this aside and let it soak. With the musket behind me, sitting against the tree, it's soaking. We're going to let that soak for a little bit, and we're going to just give the lock a once over. I'm not going to soak the lock in water. I'm not going to go crazy with it. I guess that's a video for another day. But we want to clean it up and make sure it doesn't continue to rust. So what I personally use is I use Ballistol. but you can use CLP, you can use, there's a litany of rust protectants and cleanings out there. I like Ballistol. So we're going to spray the lock down a little bit and scrub it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flint out, or just not start with the flint in the first place. It's a little grimed up, so we're going to remove some of that grime. So I'm just going to spray it down. I'm going to use a wire. This is a brass brush. Bought this from Harbor Freight. And we're just going to scrub it down a little bit, get some of the gunk out. It wasn't too bad to begin with. You really want to make sure that the spring and the internals are pretty cleaned up. And then the outside of the lock we're going to scrub down. There's a little bit of rust here, so you can continue to use the brass brush or use a steel wool. This is 00 steel wool. I'm just going to rip off a little piece and use it. The only downside to using the steel wool is it leaves little filings, I guess you'd call them, behind, so you want to kind of spray it down after you scrub it down. I see a little bit of rust here, so I want to get that. Take this, I'm going to back this piece out just so I can get to it. Looks like there's a little bit of rust there. And this isn't going to be shiny when I'm done, but I want it to be pretty free of rust. Especially in the pan. Yeah, a couple of wipes in the pan gets most of that gunk out. It's up to you as to how much you want to do this. I tend to spend a little time, but not go too crazy. We're going to give it a final spray down. It's pretty well covered. I'm going to grab some paper towels and just kind of wipe it down so that it's not absolutely soaked. Got some stuff there. Missed a spot in the frizzen. And there you have it. You're pretty good with the lock. The only other thing to mention is you want to get the screws that go into the back of the lock. This one is a little bit rusted, so we're just going to take our steel wool, get that surface rust off, hit the top of the pan of the screw. Grab some paper towel and just kind of get that Ballistol or the rust protectant that you use all over the screw. Alright, so we've worked on the lock. The lock is pretty well cleaned up. The barrel has been sitting with the soap and hot water in it. We're going to pour that out, and then we're going to scrub it out a bit. To scrub it out, I personally use a bore brush. I bought this from Track of the Wolf, and I got it so that it fits a Pyrex Ramrod, which is what this musket is. If you have something a little bit different, you might need a different threading for the adapter, but for this it should just fit right on. So I'm going to pull the Ramrod out first, put the adapter on it. And with the water still in, just going to clean it out a bit. ramrod aside. I'm going to pour this out. You'll see how dirty it is. I'm going to pour some more water down. I'm not going to put soap down at this point. I just want to rinse it out. And I'm going to take this touch hole plug off. And I'm just going to let it come out the touch hole as I rinse it out. You want to make sure that you lean the musket over so no more water than necessary is running into your stock. I'm going to pour a few cups down just to get it so that's nice and clear. I'm going to scrub it again. And then rinse again. Once you're finding it pretty clear in terms of it coming out, it should be good. The next step is going to be removing the adapter for the fork brush off the ramrod and putting a plunger with some patches to run down and clean it out and get the inside of the barrel, the bore, protected from rust. So for the next part, we're just going to spray down some patches with some brush protectant and some cleaning. I'm going to use the foul stall again. I'm going to spray a patch down, put that over the bore of the barrel, grab the jag, and work that down the barrel. And come up. This patch should be pretty dirty. I'm going to use the same patch. I'm going to flip it around to the other side. Work that down. You want to repeat this until the patch is not looking like this, but it doesn't have to be clean either. I'll do this a few more times. I might do this 5 times with 5 or 6 different patches, both sides. So a total of probably 10 to 12 times. So we've cleaned out the bore. We've run some patches through. As you can see here, I actually went through 7. So I did this 4. It was pretty fouled up. So you can see the progression as it gets gross to more clean. This is what I'm willing to settle for. This isn't perfectly clean, but I think it's workable. I'm actually going to use these patches when I clean the ramrod. So the ramrod I have here, you'll see it has some pinning, some rust. So I'm going to grab some of the steel wool that I used before. And I'm just going to kind of clean that down. I can feel it just as I do this, that I'm getting some resistance from the rust, so I know it's there. And after I do that a little bit, you can see some of the rust there on that side. I'm just going to go over it again. And once it's pretty good, I'm going to grab this patch that I used just to save some oil. Stuff's not cheap. And I'm going to use this just to wipe down the ramrod. My hands are pretty greased up too. They're pretty oily. Normally I would be concerned about my oil from my fingers potentially rusting, but I have oil all over myself, so. And then once that's pretty well wiped down, we're going to put this back in the musket and move on to the next part. So after we've worked on the rammer, got that cleaned up, the last thing we're going to do before we put the lock back in is we're going to just scrub out the mortise here for the lock. We're going to get some of this rust off and just wipe down the barrel pretty well. You'll notice on this particular musket there was actually a crack. This had broken. So this was repaired by our, one of the guys in our regiment, our reenactment regiment. Did a pretty good job. So we'll proceed, and I'm going to use to work on the mortise here. I'm going to use a plastic bristle brush. I'm not going to use anything hard because this is wood. I'm going to spray some Ballistol in it. Ballistol's okay on wood as well. And I'm just going to scrub out some of the carbon or fouling that might be in there. I'm not going to go too crazy. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to wipe this out with a paper towel. Let's see how it's coming off. And then to hit the barrel up, I'm going to grab some steel wool. And you'll see the breech here, the touch hole, the bottom of the barrel is pretty rusted up. So we just want to get that surface rust, surface pitting off. And I'm going to scrub that down, work some of the rust off. Okay, as we get to finishing off, just trying to get most of the surface rust off this barrel. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but we want to get it so that most of the rust is off. I'm going to wipe this down with one of the patches. I'm just going to put some Ballistol on the barrel. Get that coated with a nice film of the Ballistol. Just protect the metal and store it. At this point, the inside of the bore of the musket should be protected and good. This rust, it looks rusty, but it's just the remnants. The surface rust is gone. This is pretty well oiled up. And we're going to put the lock in next. So after we've gotten the barrel cleaned up, we've gotten the mortise cleaned out a little bit. It does look fairly dirty here. It's really just that's rust that I can't remove unless I get a grinder. I worked the steel wool over it, and now I'm just protecting it with the rust protectant just so it doesn't rust further than it already has. We're going to put the lock in. So I'm just going to grab the lock, and the lock only goes in one way. So we'll fit this right in. And I'm going to hold this piece down, flip it over. You want to make, if I don't hold it in, it's going to fall out. And we're going to grab our screws that we took out before, and we're just going to hand tighten those in. And then we'll cinch it down with the screwdriver. And at that point, you're pretty much all set and ready to put it away. I want to thank you for watching the video. I appreciate you taking time and watching me clean this. I'm hopeful that it will help you. For more information on some of the things that I use to clean it, I'll put some information in the description below, along with links as well. Thank you.